Rose Hill Mansion is one house with many stories. Robert and Jane Rose were the first owners of the property, moving from Virginia in 1803. Every owner after them kept the name Rose Hill. The Roses didn't build the large mansion, but had a smaller home in the same location. While the Rose kitchen was incorporated into the mansion, the rest of the Rose home was moved to the north, shown in the red oval, when the mansion was built. Robert Rose died in 1835, and his wife moved to Geneva. William K. Strong, a wealthy wool broker from New York City, bought the property in 1837. By 1839, the house we know as the Rose Hill Mansion was completed. President Martin Van Buren was one of the first guests. This undated daguerreotype may be the earliest photograph of Rose Hill. It was probably taken in the late 1840s. After William Strong's wife died in 1843, he moved back to New York City. The next owners, Robert and Margaret Swan, received the house as a wedding present from Robert's parents in 1850. The house came with 344 acres of farmland. Robert learned farming from his father-in-law, John Johnston, whose farm was next to Rose Hill. John taught Robert the value of tile drainage. The dotted lines on this map show the drain tile that Robert installed to make his land more productive. The Swans had 6 children who lived beyond infancy. Shown with their mother, left to right, are Lincoln, Mary, and Margaret. Robert and Otis were the next 2 children. Agnes, the youngest, was the only one to live to an old age. She married Waldo Hutchins Sr. of New York City. The Swans didn't live alone at Rose Hill. There were domestic servants who cooked and cleaned for the family. Other workers tended the grounds, animals, and crops. The number of workers living at Rose Hill varied during the 40 years that the Swans owned the property. Robert hired most of his farm workers for a year at a time and gave them houses in which to live. This tenant house is gone, but was south of the mansion. Most of the workers, both on the farm and inside the house, were Irish immigrants. Robert and Margaret had contracts with the outdoor and indoor workers, respectively. Margaret passed away in 1889, followed by Robert in 1890. With several owners between 1890 and 1965, Rose Hill was a farm, a summer estate, and nursing home. After renting the mansion for 2 years, William Strong's great-grandnephew Joseph purchased Rose Hill in 1960. His family lived in the mansion while doing restoration work and publicizing the house to architectural historians and preservation groups. In 1965, Robert Swan's grandson, Waldo Hutchins Jr., purchased Rose Hill for the Geneva Historical Society. Initial restoration work took several years. The mansion was opened for public tours in 1968. Rose Hill was placed on the National Register of Historical Places in 1973 and named a National Historic Landmark in 1987. Today, the guided tour of Rose Hill chronicles the life and times of the Swan family. Along with guided tours, the mansion and grounds are used for school programs, concerts, and special events. John Johnston was born in 1791 in Scotland. A successful farmer, a drop in crop prices made him look towards America. With family in New York City and central New York, John had heard of the fertile land in the Finger Lakes. In April 1821, John left his wife, Margaret, and young children in Scotland. After looking for farmland in Geneva, Chicago, and Rochester, he decided to purchase a 112-acre farm on the east side of Seneca Lake. He sent for his family, and they arrived in 1822 in time to see his first crop of barley fail. John quickly took steps to improve his land. The farm he purchased had piles of rotted manure. He hired a man to spread the manure on the fields and plow it under. Next, John purchased 1,000 bushels of lime and spread it on the fields to add calcium to the soil. These 2 measures increased his crop yield, but he felt his land could be better if it were drained. This area has heavy clay soil which retains groundwater. When crops are planted in the spring, roots stop growing downward when they reach water. When fields dry out in summer, root structures can't support the plants. Underdrainage lowers the water table in wet fields, promoting strong roots and making it easier for farmers to work the land. Early 19th century farmers in America made drainage ditches with stones, wood, and other materials. Tile drainage was well known in the Middle East and Europe, but no one had used it in the United States. In 1835, John asked Scottish relatives to send him 2 drain tiles. He showed them to Benjamin Wardenby, a potter in Waterloo, who then made 3,000 tiles. John ditched and tiled a 10-acre field and kept records to compare its yield to surrounding fields. His wheat crop went from 5 bushels an acre to 50 bushels an acre on the drained land. His neighbors made fun of him for burying crockery in the ground, but his increasing crop yields soon persuaded other farmers to follow his example. John promoted his farming methods in state and national agricultural newspapers. He took in young men as apprentices, including Robert Swan in 1848. Robert married John's daughter Margaret in 1850. John and Robert became family, neighbors, and colleagues in promoting tile drainage. Drain tile is still used today in the form of perforated plastic tubing. If you drive past a farm field and see a pipe draining into an open ditch, that's drain tile at work. In this area, drain tile is usually installed to replace old drain lines or to provide more intensive drainage. The Johnston House and Mike Weaver Drain Tile Museum are located a half-mile south of Rose Hill. They are open on weekends from May 1st to October 31st. The house has been restored to its 19th century appearance, and the museum has a detailed history of drain tile.